question. Sir Captain Caleb, if you are ready, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for having me this evening. Today, we'll be discussing about enclosed space entering. So recently, we have received reports that a lot of examiners have failed our cadets based on enclosed space entering, and some others have had referrals. So it is quite important for us to look in depth into enclosed space entry. So just to outline what enclosed space entering is, the next one will be, we'll look at where are the enclosed space found on the vessel. First of all, let me apologize, I'm on board, so you can be hearing some sort of noise in the background, so my sincere apologies for that. So thereafter, we'll also discuss about procedure for entering into enclosed space, which is quite very important. And lastly, we discuss about the SOLAS requirement. There's a particular section is question in oral examination. And then we'll look at some few incidents that involves enclosed space entry. So what is an enclosed space? As we are aware, coursework have a dedicated chapter on enclosed space entry, and then they define enclosed space entry as a space that have limited entry and exit, and it is deficient in oxygen. What are those spaces on the ship that you classify as? If you look at cargo tanks, void spaces, you also look at sometimes boiler casing. These are all classified as enclosed spaces. These spaces have limited oxygen. Some of them have different gases, combustible gases, flammable gases, toxic because lack of oxygen can cause death in some areas. So you can't be able to survive without oxygen for a period of at least 3 minutes. So it's important for you to understand the procedure for entering into enclosed space. So here I give you some examples. We have the cargo tank, ballast tank, cofferdam, void spaces, boilers, dock hills, fuel oil tank, and cargo holds. These are all example of enclosed space that you found on a vessel. If you're on a tanker, cargo tanks are part of your enclosed space, and if you are in a bulk carrier or general cargo, the cargo hold space is also an enclosed space. So you should not enter any cargo hold space without going through the enclosed space entry procedure. So next now we are going to look at the hazard. What are the hazards that are present in an enclosed space? So as you are aware, the atmosphere in any enclosed space may be potentially dangerous, and then it may contain deficient oxygen, flammable or toxic gases. Actually, the illumination there is very, very poor because an enclosed space, so you have inadequate illumination. That also poses a serious danger. So what do you do before entering an enclosed space? It's very, very important if you are on board a vessel to know these precautions, because it might save your life, it might save the life of your crew member, and it will help you to raise awareness during safety committee meetings. So the first part is, how do you plan? Assuming now you are sailing from a port and you want to inspect maybe a ballast tank the next day, or you want to inspect a cargo tank. So you need to plan. During the planning phase, you conduct what we call maybe a work plan meeting, where all the risks involved in enclosed space entry will be discussed, and mitigating factors will also be agreed upon. So what are those risks that are involved? We have highlighted already that they have deficiency in oxygen, presence of toxic substance. So during this planning phase, you will have what we call, a competent person. A competent person will be appointed, to look. Next phase of it is to conduct a risk assessment. That is during the planning phase. So you conduct risk assessment, identify all the possible hazards involved, and what are the mitigating factors that you will use to eliminate such risks. So once risk assessment is completed, you open the space and you start ventilating the space. Very, very important. You have to be aware that if it is a cargo tank, then you have to first push the space to reduce hydrocarbon below the content where it can cause combustion. Then thereafter, particular space, ensure that it is ventilated for a minimum of at least 24 hours. Some of them will require for that is available. So it's very, very important during this ventilation, you have to open it and you have to put safety mark. This is an enclosed space, please, no entering. And also that because sometimes when you open it, there's a hazard that is present there. One of the hazards is, people might be walking on deck and then there's a complacency. They know that this place is always closed and they don't look. People have different thoughts in their mind and somebody can just walk in there and fall there and die. So it's very, very important. So once you complete this preparation, you ensure that the atmosphere there is fully ventilated. On the day that you are going to carry out, you need to have your risk assessment. The risk assessment is there. The second one, you need to test for oxygen content. You test at 3 different levels, top, middle, and bottom, to ensure that you have an oxygen of 20.9. Sometimes examiners will ask you, if you have an oxygen of 20.8, are you going to go into the tank? The answer is absolutely no. The requirement says 20.9. So the oxygen content must be 20.9. The hydrocarbons content must be 0.00. So once you are sure that it meets up the threshold of the oxygen and hydrocarbon requirement, next is to provide sources of elimination into the tank. Once you provide sources of elimination into the tank, you have the enclosed space entering team. You conduct a risk assessment, review the risk assessment with them, talk about the risks involved. If it is going to be a tank, you need to explain to them that one person at the ladder in the time, you need to step on the ladder, ensure that it's firm, because sometimes this ladder might have been wasted away. Those are the precautions that you take. Secondly, after discussing the risk assessment, you need to go back to the master, because another question that comes out during orals is who is the person that signed enclosed space entry permit? And the answer is only the master can sign enclosed space entry permit. And then sign enclosed space entry permit. So without enclosed space entry permit, you are not permitted to go into enclosed space to carry out any inspection. Once the permit is signed, the permit has a validity. And then it has also a section in the permit for periodic checks that, okay, be checked at so interval. So once the permit is signed, you have a standby man that is standing by there with BA set. It has the safety trolleys and with all its contents, which includes first aid kits. You have portable gas meter. You have spare BA bottles. You have stretchers. You have emergency ladders, you have safety harness. So the trolley must be checked and all the contents of the trolley must be correct. So next now is you have to brief the standby man about his duties. And he has to establish communication with the people going into the tank at least every 5 minutes to call them to find out if everything is okay and which level are they? They are in this level, they enter from outside, they are going to forward, or they are going to port, or they are going to starboard. So at any period of time, the standby man should know the location of the teams. So next is, once you discuss that with the staff member, will have have a portable gas meter, and in some companies you will have a motion detector. So you look, member will go in, and then you conduct your inspection, and at regular standby man, everything is okay. In this level, moving forward, moving aft. That will give him a fair idea, so that when something goes wrong, he will be able to raise alarm, and he will tell the rescue team that this particular, the enclosed space, and other than you don't know. Yeah. So it's very important. So once you enter enclosed space, another question that comes up during, if you lost contact, possibly with people that are in the tank, what will the standby man do? First of all, the standby man will raise an alarm, and he will don his BA set and stand by. He should not enter at all, on the rescue teams arrived at the positions. So if you look at Saga Rose, where the chief officer go and get the water in the ballast tank. And when the first guy he went inside, the second guy was standing and he was shouting, the other guy was called out, he went inside to rescue. That is how about 5 people died during enclosed space entry. So it's very, very important for the standby man to don his BS8 and stand by until the rescue team arrive. And when the rescue team arrive, what they need to do now is to be able to ascertain the situation, and they should be able to carry out this rescue as soon as possible. So those are the procedures now for entry into a closed space. So what happened upon completion? Upon completion of enclosed space entry, very, very important, you have to carry out what we call accountability. You have to account for the total number of people that went into enclosed space to ensure some of the questions that have been asked. Okay, what are the precautions that you take upon completion of enclosed space inspection? So one of the precautions is to cut enclosed space out, and whatever equipment they take for their normal operation in enclosed space, that equipment is being taken out of that space. So it's very, very important. So this one is about the initial discussion we made. So there's a checklist before you go into enclosed space. It's very, very important for you to go through. One of the first things you need to check, that has the space been properly ventilated? Yes, so if space has been properly ventilated, has it been tested? If the space has been tested, what is the oxygen? The oxygen content should be at 20.9 and the hydrocarbon content should be 0. So nobody should go into any enclosed space that have an oxygen content below 20.9. So it's very important. So the next thing you need to check is the space continuously ventilated? So while you are there, it's a good practice for you to continue to ventilate that particular space to ensure sufficient oxygen circulation. So the next thing you need to check is, has adjacent space been checked? It's very hopefully maybe a fuel oil tank. So there's possibility of H2S moving from fuel oil tank to the ballast tank if there's leak. So you need to check the adjacent tank to ensure everything is okay. And then if you are going to inspect a tank that is close to a fuel oil tank, you need to from the fuel oil tank to the ballast tank is very important. So it's very important for you to inspect adjacent tanks from gases, which we have discussed. You have your gas meter to check. And then very important, before testing these gases, you need to calibrate, you need to check when the gas meter was last calibrated, and just quick do fresh air, what we call a pump test to ensure it is working good. There's no point of you using a gas meter that has not been gases in an enclosed space. That will give you a false result, and which will result in fatality. So the next one, you have to ensure sufficient oxygen content, which we'll talk about 20.9. And you need to go through the checklist to ensure that the risk assessment has been carried out. All team members have been briefed about the task, and they are all aware of the hazard involved, in that particular operation. So the next thing for you to do is to also has a ship company to be involved. For instance, the DPA, if it's whole inspection, you have to inform the company. The company have to be aware. In some companies, enclosed space entry. Then next thing is you have to continuously monitoring the space. Like I said, in enclosed space entry permit, there's a space that shows when you check, after how many minutes you check the atmosphere, and then the validity of the permit. It shouldn't exceed 12 hours. It's very, very important for you to know the validity of the permit. So you have to check, and one is with is referred to as the standby man. And the standby man should be able to know his duties, should be able to raise alarm when he cannot establish contact with the team members that are inside the tank. He should be able to know what to own our colleague or his crew member. He should be able to wait until the rescue team arrived and the situation is being ascertained. So you also have to check that the BS set, like I said, and safety trolley is kept at the entrance, and the content of safety trolley has been checked. Everything is fine. Very important, you have to check the oxygen content of BS sets to ensure that it is fully charged. Anything you have a drop in oxygen of less than 10% or below, you are not allowed to use it. You have to charge it. So it's very, very important for you to know that. And it's also very important for you to know that emergency escape breathing device should not be used for you to escape from that particular space. So it's a question that always pop up during our oral examination, where they ask if you can use EEBD, for enclosed space rescue. It's very, very important for you to know this. So the next is about the rescue team, which we have discussed, and then permit to work. We also have to ensure that the permit is valid before entering into any enclosed space. So should, in case maybe in the course of inspection, maybe you start your inspection around 8 and you have a tea break around 10. When you resume around 10, you need to carry out all these checks again to ensure everything is okay before you go into the enclosed space. You don't just assume that the first checks you conducted at 8 o'clock remains valid. So it's very, very important for you to go through this. So responsible officer, as I say, master is the one that issue the permit. So you need to carry out an enclosed space inspection. So sometimes you carry out an enclosed space inspection depending on the ship you are on and depending on the circumstance. If you are in the LNG trade, you normally inspect ballast tanks to check for cold spot, the percentage wastage for anodes, you check for cracks, for leaks, you check for the condition of coating. And if you are on other ships like supply boat, you tend to inspect also to check for condition of coating. We check still in good condition. So there are different reasons to carry out The reason because there have been some incidents that have happened in the past, and then they look at it. They have also battery which can emit some sort of fumes and gases. So what happened in that situation is you don't actually require enclosed space entry permit to go into that library, but you need to open the library to ventilate it for a specific period of time. So that issue has been raised by IMO and different regulatory bodies. So let's look at the SOLAS requirement for enclosed space entry, particularly drills. So apologies. So sorry, follow-up, is he sharing now?
Yeah.
Hello, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen. You can see your screen.
Yes, we can see, sir.
Okay. Okay, so okay. So the SOLAS requirements, so with effect from 1st January 2015, it said all persons involved in enclosed space entry or they are assigned an enclosed space duty will space drills, and these drills should be carried out at interval of not exceeding 2 months as per SOLAS chapter 3 regulation 19. So, but if you notice in most ships they conduct this enclosed space rescue drill every 2 months, and it's not only this thing because in the case of if you have enclosed space rescue, you can use a cook, you can use anybody, a messman, to be able to carry out this rescue. So what you need to do in this case is you need to train the whole crew member. So there's a drill schedule. So this drill is being carried out for all crew members on board. So this drill should be contained in master's official logbook. As you are aware, all drills should be entered in master official logbook, and it should be attested by the master and at least one officer or safety officer. And during this drill, it's very, very important that the procedure done be a set, how to rescue person, what are the rescue equipment should also be discussed among the teams. So there's also portable instrument regulation, and this regulation came into force on 1st July 2016, and it requires ships to carry an appropriate portable atmospheric testing equipment or any instrument that is capable of testing oxygen, flammable gas, flammable vapors, or hydrogen sulfide. This is in addition to the standard portable standard hydrocarbon or oxygen measuring equipment. This portable measuring equipment, whenever you are going into the tank, oxygen is deficient, or it alerts you when there's some presence of flammable gases or hydrocarbon vapor. So it's very different types of gas detectors. Some of them are MSA altered, so it depends on the kind of cargo you carry. But this is a requirement by SOLAS. So it's also a question that can pop up during your oral examination. Before I go into the section, do you have any question before we look at the major incident? Any question from?
Sir.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, please, I just want to ask briefly, is it only the master that is mandatory to issue the enclosed space permit, or any other responsible officer can issue it also? Thank you.
Yes. No. Okay. For enclosed space entry permit, every responsible officer can be able to fill it completed, but the final approval is only done by the master of the vessel. Hello, do you get me?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So no master approval,
Okay.
no enclosed space entry. All right,
No
sir.
enclosed space entry. Yes. So in the case, sometimes they will say, okay, the master is the one that is going. It's a vague situation where some will say it's the chief engineer. But if you look at a typical enclosed space entry permit, is the master. Initially, the master, that can issue. One of them is enclosed space entry permit. The other one is, I think, working site, has to be issued by the master. Otherwise, some of them are being issued by chief engineer. So any other question? Falabi, do you have an idea of the question they asked about that enclosed space where the person have a referral? Do you have any idea about it?
I think it was a situation where, first of all, what are the practical checks that an officer, which might be a chief officer in this case or a second officer, will carry out before any of his crew get into the to any enclosed space? That's question one. And then question two is, in case of enclosed space emergency, as an officer, what will you do if somebody collapses in an enclosed space? How will you carry out the rescue step by step?
I lost some connection. Can you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah, I said in this case here, it's one, which is procedure of entering an enclosed space. So what will the officer responsible in entering? The officer responsible for that operation will do before allowing crew to go into an enclosed space in this case. And then secondly, if they are in the enclosed space and there was an emergency, or for instance, a cadet falling inside for unexpected H2S occurrence, what will the responsible officer, in this case a chief officer, do to carry out an emergency contingency?
Okay, all right. So I'll quickly respond to this. The first one is what will a responsible officer do, or the procedure for enclosed space. As we discussed earlier, is for you to plan. Planning is very, very important. We conduct maybe a work plan meeting about the job. Some people, like you might have new people in the system, cadets discuss the hazard, the risks associated with this stage. You also have to discuss about how you are mechanical, is it going to be natural, how are you going for 48 hours. These are all discussed during the planning stage. You are also going to discuss how the inspections will be carried out. Are you going to inspect for percentage wastage of anodes, tank coating?
Hi everyone. I think okay. Captain Caleb is struggling with his internet there.
Hello, sorry, I
Yeah,
lost signal.
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, so the next thing now is it's very important for you to check past record. Past record is very important in such a way that you have to look at maybe the condition of the ladder is being reported. You know, if you look at the inspection report, so you need to be able to reinforce that to the team members. Okay, guys, we are going into this tank, and these are the things that we are supposed to face. These are all discussed in the planning stage by a responsible officer. So next thing is for you to be able to ventilate the system. You know, opening up the system, also there are risks involved in it. So you need to conduct a risk assessment before even opening the space. Is it a pressurized space or not? Is it a space that contains a lot of hydrocarbon that might be able to harm the crew member that are opening it also? That needs to be taken into account. You need to carry out a risk assessment to ensure that the job can be conducted safely. Very important, you need to appoint a supervisor. A supervisor, a responsible officer, must be there to supervise all tasks. And then you should know that somebody who is quite new in rank should not be delegated that sort of task. So now once you open the tank, you ventilate the tanks, ensure that the tank is adequately ventilated. You test on the day of entry, you test the atmosphere at 3 levels to ensure that it complies with the requirements, which is oxygen is 20.9, H2S is about 0, and other hydrocarbon gases are 0. Very important, you have to ensure adequate source of illumination is being provided, you know, and then you have to also ensure that the standby man or the person that's going to stand by is being briefed about his duties, you know, how you want the reporting to be done, because you need to report to him and he needs to relay it to the bridge, you know, so at regular interval, what intervals you want it to be reported. So another very, very important point to consider is the rescue equipment that are available. That means the first aid, you know, the safety harness, all those things must be prepared. So the next thing, the next question, you talk about emergency. If a cadet actually fall due to the presence of H2S, yes, that's a common question, like I said earlier. First thing is you have already briefed the standby man about the dangers and how to respond to emergencies. So when he tried to contact anyone, this high concentration of H2S, what the standby man need to do is to raise watch on radio and say, okay, there's an emergency, watch, raise a general alarm. The rescue must have been first. One casualty.
Okay, if I wanna jump in there before Captain Caleb comes on back. Emergencies, he has explained how we will have to carry out a procedure before entering an enclosed space tank. The reason for this is because there are so many enclosed space entry that has led to fatality on the ships, great fatalities as well. And there was an incident report of last year where a cadet got into an enclosed space tank, and then his father was the captain of the ship. And the cadet, because of H2O, was not able to survive it and slumped inside the tank. Now, what the dad did was the captain got into the tank and then tried to rescue, of course, his son without following the proper procedure. He was able to rescue his son, but he did not make it out alive. So this is the reason why the MCA, NIMASA, Ghana Maritime Authority, and everyone are now putting much more emphasis.
My apologies. As you're aware, I'm offshore, so the network keeps fluctuating.
Yes, sir.
So the network keeps fluctuating. Yeah. So can we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So are you okay with the answer, or do you have any point to add?
Yeah, we all noted with the answers. I was just explaining to them why this has become a for point of view and for every examiner, and they are all looking forward to the way we are all answering our question on enclosed space time. So with that, can I have someone in the house to just give us a procedure for emergency rescue or someone in an enclosed space tank? If we can answer, I would just like to test our knowledge on it. We find someone in an enclosed space tank who is slow. What are the procedure? What's the first thing you're gonna be thinking of step by step? Because I think that was what failed our students last week. Does somebody want to give a try? Kumar, JJ, MC, and then
But I
we'll
think
wrap it.
in addition to what we have, in addition to what we discussed, sometimes these examiners can just hand over a blank risk assessment form to you and ask you to carry out an enclosed space entry risk assessment. So it's very important for you guys to be able to identify all the possible hazards that are present in an enclosed space and how also to mitigate those particular risks. So you need to also be able to identify, in case of enclosed space, most of the risks are not tolerable, very. So you have to put some sort of precautions. So it's very important for you to be able to carry out enclosed space. Sometimes some examiners can be funny. Even Jackson in South Shield will ask you to give him the content of enclosed space entry permit. So it's very important. And one of the points I want to stress is for enclosed space entry permit, there's a section, that every crew member that is going into enclosed space will sign to show that he understands what to do in case of emergency. He understands the procedure for entry and exit, and he understands that the periodic checks will be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and he will be checking his portable gas meter at all times. So it's very important. I want to quickly see if I can share my slide about the major incidents.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can you see my slide now?
Yeah, Lauren.
Is it showing? Can you see the slide?
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it. It's showing.
Yes. Okay. All right. So there are some examples now. That's what gave birth to most of those oral questions. Like the first one here, you look at rescue equipment. So it's very important for you to know which kind of rescue equipment you are going to use for enclosed space entering, and to be able to rescue someone in the case of emergency. So if you look at this case, it's a case of 3 experienced seamen who died inside a chain locker. As you are aware, anchor chain locker is an enclosed space. So two were overcome while trying off an anchor chain. The third crew member was a member attempting to rescue 2 of his colleagues, which I talk about. You don't attempt to rescue your colleague until the rescue teams arrive. So they say, despite entering the chain locker wearing emergency escape breathing device, he removed its hood after being constrained by the device. All the 3 men died from lack of oxygen. So like I said earlier, emergency escape device should not be used. EEBD should not be used for rescue. Poor rescue plan and incorrect use of equipment can pose a danger, So adjacent atmosphere. So this has to do with a cargo hold space. When you are the chief officer enter a store, try to rescue men but was forced to leave when he became short of his breath and vision. The two seamen, have shortage of oxygen, which leads to their death. One of the underlying factors of this particular into account of an adjacent. So there's what is trying to tell us. Even some storerooms, if you open them, they might be deficient in oxygen, not even a space. So you have to be aware of that. So what I'm trying to make a point is about why major incidents happen is you look at one of the poor rescue plans of them, not recognizing the dangers of an enclosed space. So a lot of people, they don't tend to understand the dangers related to an enclosed space. So that's the issue where you have to discuss intensively with your crew member during the planning stage. So in this, I almost found the water level. So you should have an enclosed space to carry out any activity without ensuring the space has been adequate. You have a standby man, enclosed space permit has been issued, risk assessment has been conducted to ensure that the space, is free for entry. So it's very, very important. This one lead to a death of an experienced seaman in the bottom of the tank. So it's very, very important for us to know to recognize enclosed space and just nailing of enclosed space entry because of the dangers of enclosed space entry. So there are some major incidents, of enclosed space entry. We talk about the issue of the Vikings Island. So I will send most of these ones in the chat group. The issue of the Sava Lake in January 2008. You have the Suntis that happened in 2014, and there's a latest one that's just been investigated by MIAB, which is about the fishing vessel, the Sunbeam. So most of these incidents happened as a result of one, human error, use of rescue equipment, for is spot or identify the dangers associated with enclosed space. And how do you mitigate most of these incidents? The first most important one is awareness. You need to create awareness among the ship crew about the dangers of enclosed space. There are signs that show, okay, enclosed space, danger, do not enter. The other one is about drills and training. Drills and training are very, very important. Drills, helps to remind you about, how to rescue someone in event of incident. It also, to be able to identify. Very, very important for just to refresh the crew about the dangers of enclosed space, and if an incident happen as a result of enclosed space, how they can be able to rescue that particular victim. Is very important because it can be me, it can be you. So I would strongly recommend you to the UK has a publications that and also an MAIB about enclosed space entry. And for details of all these major incidents, I strongly recommend you go through the MAIB website. They have useful information about most of the enclosed space entry incident. If you are a member of Nautical Institute, you read published mass ARS into details information of various incidents in the month. Some of them are related to enclosed space. But one thing you need to understand that even with the awareness now, a lot of people still takes enclosed space, for granted. That's why you still have most of these incidents. It might be due to lack of training. It might be also due to complacency. I'm used to doing this. Oh, it is empty. I suspect the oxygen level is low. Let me just go in. When going into so I think with this, I've come to the end of my brief lecture today. And I look at it, time is not on our quick about certification, some part of rule station, also a pass of certification, and also, but what I want us to do, maybe in the last 5 minutes that we have, if you have any question, not only related to enclosed space entry, but that is related to oral exams of useful benefit to the entire house, I welcome you to us now so that we can be able to do us. I welcome my discussors.
Thank you, Captain Caleb.
Is there anyone that have any question regarding to enclosed space entry, the rules, anything?
Yeah, thank you, Captain Caleb. First on the enclosed space, I think it was really insightful. As well, I really learned a lot from it. But guys, this is just a procedure being set out as well. Once we send the video out, I also like to send also a note to the groups as well on procedures that we follow for an enclosed space, because apart from we just having the answers to the questions in the exam, we also need to practically carry this out, and that is what brings out our professionalism. There have been cases where we have some able seamen who are not, who don't have the knowledge about this, and they're ignorant about this, but they just go into an enclosed space tank. And this is our own responsibilities as officers to ensure that the procedures are being met before they are into the tank. And also this kind of class as well, and what we've heard today will help us in case we as an officers, we find out that one of our cadets is down there in the tank, or maybe an AB or whoever is in the tank. What procedures are you going to find out? Because when you know this procedure, you will not panic out of ignorance about it. I just want to say, is there anybody that has any question to ask? If there's no question, I have a question for the house myself. Do we understand today's lecture? All right, I'm getting some yes. Okay, that's good. First thing first, just in a brief way, let's try and see what we learned from Captain Caleb today. I'll just pick someone. I'll just pick anyone. AB, is that Alpha Bravo? A question for you and a question for Oman. A question for AB. What's the first thing that comes to your mind that you will do when you're preparing for an enclosed space entry operation? Is she there? All right, Umar, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Okay, do you want to answer the question for us, please, from what Captain Caleb has tried to let us know this evening? What's the first things that try to come to your mind when the master has given the instruction? Okay, we are going to be carrying out an enclosed space operation, maybe washing the tank, the fuel tanks, and different things.
I think the first thing that should come on my mind is the risks associated with the entry of such spaces.
Okay, so when you talk about risks associated, what risks are we talking about?
Yes, basically enclosed space, as we have talked about it, there are spaces that have limited oxygen. So definitely the main risks associated with such kind of spaces is the lack of oxygen, suffocation in another way.
Okay, lack of oxygen. Apart from lack of oxygen, what if there is enough oxygen? Does that make the tank okay for us to enter into the tank?
No, apart from the lack of oxygen, there might be presence of suffocating gases also.
Okay, what type of suffocating gases are we looking at?
Sulfur gas, a lot of them. It depends on what the tank was carrying. And
yeah, I fully understand that. I was just trying to, because they're gonna these questions will pop up. We need to know that we have officers that know the tanks that we are looking at here. Because when you are going into the tank with a gas detector, there will be gases that are going to be showing up. So what gas are we looking at? You've mentioned sulfur as well, the lack of oxygen. So moving on from there, what else are we looking at? Apart from the gases.
Is it still for me the question?
Yeah. Still on the question. So if you've done is the tank okay to enter? You've looked at the rigs and then you've looked at the hazard. What other things are we looking at? Now let's go to paperwork. What paperwork are we looking at here?
The permit, entry permit.
The entry permit. But before the entry permits come, what's the thing that the officer should carry out first?
A risk assessment.
A risk assessment, just like Captain Caleb says, we carry out a risk assessment, and just be informed, Egypt, Nigeria, Australia, they will all like to give you a risk assessment. Let's see how you practice a risk assessment. There is a video on our YouTube channel on the topic where I discuss on risk assessment. So it will be very good for us to just pick the risk assessment, find out what are the risks, what are the hazards, what are the contingency plans you put into place. Have you been able to lower the risks? Have you been able to mitigate the risks or eradicate the risks? That is the reason for the risk assessment. So after the risk assessment, what are we going to do into the tank to ensure that we have enough oxygen and there's no sulfur?
I think we will use oxygen analyzer to test the level of oxygen.
Oxygen analyzer, gas meters. We try to check the oxygen. We try to make sure that the H2S, like Captain Caleb told us, the H2S must be zero as well before they bring to enter into the tank. So after that, then what are we going to do with the permits to work? Prior to permits to work, when you've tested all these gases, what are you going to do with the people that are trying to enter into the tank, just like Captain Caleb tries to let us know?
I think you should be sure that those people know all the safety precautions before entering.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and so that's going to be done by what we call, are you going to carry out a toolbox talk? Are you going to brief them as well?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to brief them as well. So, and they are going to sign in your risk assessment and your toolbox talk, and as well as in your permits to work, showing the persons who are entering into the town. Correct?
Yes.
That's good. So now, lastly, you have this risk assessment, you have the toolbox talk, you have your permits to work. Where are we taking these to now? What's the next procedure? Huh?
The master has to sign. You have to take it to the master to sign.
You have to take it to the master to sign, and make sure, just like you said now, make sure no one is to enter into the tank prior to the entry to, permits to enter being being authorized as well. So yeah, you've really answered the question. But then I would like to just it's just going to be a very quick question. During the enclosed space entry, someone falls and slumps, and we have 4 people. And you are outside, of course, because you are the one responsible. What is the first thing you're gonna do? What comes to your mind? This is emergency contingency now.
Of course, we will have to raise alarm.
Okay, raise alarm first of all, and yeah, raise alarm. Who are we raising alarm to? How does this alarm? What are we raising?
Bridge. We have to raise alarm to the bridge.
Okay, that's very good. That's why communication is very, very important. As a responsible officer, you should be in charge of communication with the bridge and other factors. So now you've made alarm. Maybe I am the captain, or Captain Caleb is there on the bridge. You've informed him of the enclosed space. What else comes to your mind about it?
Rescue.
Rescue. Very good. Rescue. Thank you. Thanks very much for the answer. I will just want to switch to is another person there. This is just going to be a quick one. Let's just know, yes, we have a full view about this. Thank you, Uma. JJ, if you are there, you can unmute. Alpha Bravo AB, if you are there, you can unmute. MC, you can unmute, and let's go. So Uma has just replied, JJ, that you just informed the master. After informing the master, you are the chief officer down there. You are the one who knows what's going on down there in the fuel tank. What is the next thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah. Okay. What comes to my mind is that knowing fully well that the people slum there as a result of depletion of oxygen.
Remember the question. We have 4 people inside, so let's just be brief. We just need to list it. So we have 4 people inside. Omar has raised the alarm and he has handed over to you. What's this next step?
Wait, the 4 people slum or one person?
4 people inside. 1 person has slum.
The next step is the 3 people before rush come out first.
Okay, so that
to
means
avoid the further casualty.
the tank first. You stop the work. I needed to hear the stop the work first.
Yes.
We do not continue the work while it's going on. Yeah, raise the alarm is reasonable for us to raise the alarm, but stop the work, evacuate everyone from there. Then what are we going to do next?
Okay, yeah, after stopping the work and the people have been evacuated, then the next thing is to reconduct before rescuing the person that's slum, is to carry out another risk assessment to confirm that the oxygen level in the tank is okay to support life before any other person can
I
go
will
in.
need to stop you there. That is where we are having problems. You're carrying out another risk assessment. JJ, let's assume I was the one who slumped in the tank. Am I going to wait for you to carry out a risk assessment? This is an emergency situation here. I was washing the tank. I slumped inside the tank. You've evacuated the tank. You're going to think now, what we are doing here is emergency. You need quick actions. We're not going to be waiting for another permit to work.
Okay,
We're not going to be waiting for another risk assessment.
BA. We have to get the BA and other stuff. So before we now begin to send people to go and do the rescue. But the person that want to go and do the rescue too must be safe first.
Yeah, so we are getting there, but the examiner does not. What you are trying to do now, you are trying to cajole me by giving me an overview. I know we'll rescue the examiner. I just want to know the professional procedures as well that we're going to be using. So you're smart, but the examiners are smarter. Alpha Mike, if you can unmute your mic, I've seen your comment. If you can just help us out here, please. What's the next thing that comes to your mind, Alpha Mike?
Okay, Captain Valerie. What comes to my mind is since you made all your plans before entering the tank, you have your rescue team on standby in case of emergency. Now that there's an emergency, you've asked the 3 conscious guys to evacuate the tank. Then you need to allow the rescue team for them to use their gears, which is the BA, lifelines and whatnot, other rescue equipment that they have, to rescue the person that has slumped from the tank. That is what comes to my mind. And meanwhile, the medical team will also be on standby for resuscitation purposes. That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was really well answered, because during your rescue, I mean, during your initial risk assessment and permit to work prior to entering the town, particularly politely told us as well that we need to have everything down in place in case there's any contingency. And one of the contingencies that we need to have your BA standby. There is no professional officers, and this is apart from the exam, this is also a message to all of us for us to be even more professional in knowing what to do. You're carrying out a risk assessment. Do not start the enclosed space entry without having your BA set on standby, without having the rescue team on standby, without having the medical team on standby. Things might go south, because while the H2S is a heavy gas, and you might just be going about with the gas detector, but you will not really know what is going down there. Captain Tayo, thank you for that. He said in 5 minutes, the person might suffer from brain damage if no oxygen. So we will not want to wait for JJ to give us, we'll rescue the person, without giving us a breakdown procedure of this has been down before we enter into the tank. So that is why I started with the first question before coming to the second question, because the answer to the first question should also indicate that you have also put down emergency equipment before we can even get inside the tank as well. Is that well understood? Another thing that we need to know also, the tank must be well illuminated. There must be lights inside the tank, and then we carry out the rescue. One more question. Who am I going to pick now? MC, if you're there, you can unmute your mic, or TB, Tango Bravo. Okay, MC. Yeah, good evening, MC. Just a quick question. So before I go inside an enclosed space tank, and I want to use my BA set, or I want to prepare my BA set down, what are the checks I will carry out on my BA set? And this is another very important question that has come up. What are the checks you carry out on the BA set? Because you're not just going to tell me, if I'm your second officer, to get into the enclosed space tank with just any BA.
Hello, good evening, Captain Afolabi. Good evening, all the captains and all the students in the class. There are basically 2 checks I'm going to carry out on the BA set before using. First thing I will carry out leak test. Then I will test for the whistle, the low level.
What is this leak
alarm? To check if there are no leakages in the BA system, in the hoses and in the mask.
How do you carry out that check? Sorry.
I will just put the mask over my face and try to tuck in, to have it, if it can stay on my face. If it stays without falling off, that means there is airtight. But if it falls off, that means there is air ingress from somewhere.
Yeah, that's very important as well. The leak test is really something that we're having problem with in Sound Street with one of the examiner. But the major solution is just what you've tried to explain to us. You already BA set without it being without opening the cylinder here to make sure it's well tight, and then you can know whether there are ingress of water, there's ingress of air. Just imagine you going into an enclosed space tank that is filled with H2S and you're trying to rescue someone, and then the H2S is still trying to enter into your BA test. So that's about the test. And so what we do after the test, after that test as well. So this, for the essence of this test, it gums to your face. If it's essence that is not coming to your face, then you should know that yes, you're still receiving air. You know that yes, that's BA max. It's majorly for the max. It's not deemed fit to be used. Apart from the leak test, what are we doing on the BA site again?
I will check the low-level alarm.
Low-level alarm. How do we do that? How do we carry out the low-level alarm?
I will lock the suction to the mask. Open the valve, the air supply line. Then after which I will release the mask for the air to flow out. When the air level is dropping, the gauge will be going down. As soon as the gauge reaches the red mark, the yellow mark rather, it will give a whistle to show that it's working. If the whistle doesn't come on, that means I will not be alerted when my air is running out.
That's very good. That's one of the procedures. Although my own procedure is different, but also this is good as well. So yeah, apart from that.
Apart from that, that is all I know. The two checks I know that I will carry out.
Yeah,
on the BSL before you.
Yeah, that's good. We're going to be checking the gauge as well. We'll check for tear and wear. We'll check that the marks as well. We can be able to see and be able to effectively use it when we are inside the tank. Another message from the mountain, we need the information from the person that were inside the tank to know the exact location of the person. So when we are going inside the tank also, we try to know the exact location of the person. But as well, it will also help us when we're doing our risk assessment to ensure that there's proper illumination, lights inside the tank. We don't want to be doing an operation in the dark tank because that's when it's going to make it very difficult. And also in big tanks like LNG ballast tank, it's important to note the direction of travel for the rescue team, and that is very, very important as well. We need to note if it's a very big tank. We don't want to, let's say, we don't want to be misdirected. We don't want to be in a wrong direction, and we don't know where we're coming out from. So you get into the tanker, you don't know. We'll see you next week. How long should the BA last, and what level will?
I think the BA, it depends on the body mass of the person, because the way you consume your oxygen is different from the way another person consume oxygen. So it depends on the energy that is being oxygen faster, while some people consume oxygen slower. So as a general rule of thumb, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. All depends. You get the alarm. Depend on some bottles are about 200, some bottles are 180. It all depends on that also. So there are a lot of dynamics that surround this oxygen consumption.
Okay. So sir, one question again. Which level is it dangerous to use? At what percentage is it dangerous to use the BSF? That's another question.
When you test your BSF and when you have about a drop of 10 bar, you are not allowed to use it from the beginning. So, and when you are already in an enclosed space for rescue and then the whistle go on, then you have to come up immediately. So the whistle is just to alert you. While before you even enter, you must enter with a full bottle of oxygen. On no occasion will you enter the maybe for rescue or go into for firefighting with a BA bottle that has maybe, if the oxygen is supposed to be 200, then you have about less than 180, so you are not supposed to do so.
Okay, thank you very much. So just one more question for you. I'm going to also talk on your answer as well. You say, why is it that the other 3 members, in my scenario, I gave 4 members that are inside the tank, and the answer was 3 that are not that are medically okay to come out or are fit to come out should run out of the tank. Why can't they be the rescue team?
Why is it that the other 3 members in the tank not rescue the member who is down? Okay, this question is a bit complicated. So if you are in the tank, you work in pairs, you inspect in pairs, you don't only inspect alone. The question that was asked initially was, the scenario I gave was 3 crew members went into the chain locker, and then they all have a kind of oxygen deficiency, and all of them died at once. Nobody was trying to rescue each other. But if you are in a tank that you have an oxygen deficiency,
you won't be able to rescue each other because it's going to have an impact on all the three of you. It's not only one person. So you won't say, okay, an oxygen of 6% will make you to be alive than others. The only thing is the time that you'll be able to start escaping compared to the other one. You know, you might have some bit of time interval. But if it's going to kill you, it's going to kill all the three of you. It's not different. But in the case of rescue, if somebody is fully kitted, then you can go and start rescuing one person at a time, one person at a time. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thanks very much. It really answers the question, and it's the same answer I will have given as well. Entering into the tank is different from entering into the tank to walk, and then you find some strange circumstances inside the tank. The first thing you want to know is come out first. You live to fight, because if you want to start rescuing, it might be an H2S gas, and what might have injured him or made the other person to slump might really affect you because you are not kitted for a rescue operation. To allow people to come in and come and rescue the tank as well. So that's why it's really very, very important. You're in a tank, you have someone in the tank or 2 or 3 people when you are still there. Don't attempt a rescue operation. Please come out. Then immediately you can team up with the rescue operation, with the rescue team, if you are allowed by the responsible officers, before going into the trunk, well kitted with the proper BA set. Thank you very much. Thank you, Captain Caleb, again for clearing that doubt. So with that, I'll say thank you, everyone, and enjoy your week. I will see you again next Tuesday.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.